Welcome to the Wellnessly podcast with your host Ella, and today my friend is Jason Schultz. Jason is a well-accomplished Ironman and owner of the health food shop Food for Life. So, shall we dive in? All right, let's get started. So, firstly, who are you?
Jason Schultz.
Nice.
57, 58 this year in August.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. And so my favourite question to start off every pod is, what's your earliest memory of being fit?
You know what? It's. I don't know if I've actually got an earliest memory because I've always been very active.
Yeah.
So even as a when I was a young, till I was from 3 until I was 12, I lived in the country.
Oh, cool.
So we rode bikes. We had nowhere to go. We're in the middle of nowhere. We're 5 kilometres from the city.
Yeah.
Or the town. So that's what we did. So I suppose I don't remember that. And then when I moved to Melbourne, because that's where I'm originally from, I got a paper round. So I was up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
and delivering papers on my bike. And I think I rode about 30 kilometres every morning.
Oh, wow.
Wasn't great for school. Because I do remember as a kid actually falling asleep in class.
Oh.
Which wasn't excellent.
Yeah.
And probably in hindsight, I think that's something that I probably shouldn't have done.
Yeah, but you're
But
fit while doing it.
the $14 a week I got was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, true. Do you remember what you used to spend it on?
Well, funny enough, I still am. I'm a big AFL supporter of Richmond.
Okay.
So I was actually in the Richmond cheer squad.
Yeah.
And I even took out the 1982 grand final banner.
Oh, wow.
I took out Kevin Bartlett's 400th game. So that money was spent for me to go and watch the football.
Oh, worth it.
And watch the football on the Saturday with friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the cheer squad.
That's
Yeah.
definitely worth the 30Ks.
Right.
To
Mind
live
you,
with the
my
paper.
my schooling wasn't great, so that
Yeah.
didn't help.
So
Yeah.
from all that cycling, how did that then go into triathlon?
Well, I think it just sort of I met some people at the Richmond Footy Club, and then one of the friends that I met, James, and he had a friendship group from his high school, and they were all runners.
Oh.
So he used to do trail running and cross country, and he was very good at it. He still is.
Yeah.
And so we kind of met that way, and then we met this other guy called Dave Gray, who I'm still great friends with. All these guys, and he was always we're always a bit out there. So Dave and I would always talk about triathlons, or he'd bring things up. We've done triathlons together. We've heli skied in New Zealand.
Oh.
We've done we parachuted at 18 or 19 years old. So we've just done so much of that sort of stuff. So we got into triathlon just purely as something different that no one else was doing. And when we started back in 1985 when we first started, it was a pretty raw sort of thing to do, to the point even whereas back then triathletes and cyclists didn't like each other. They actually hate. I had cyclists trying with their pump to stick it in my wheel as I was going past, as they were passing me. And the reason they knew who we were was because triathletes wore colourful lycra.
Yeah, right.
Whereas the cyclists were black and white tops, maybe blue. So we would definitely clear apart, and they hated us being on their path.
Oh.
So it was not a great life being a triathlete back then, because we were disliked.
Yeah, of course.
But we had the best fun.
Yeah.
Like we'd rock up in my mate's car, 4 of us in the back of the car with the 4 bikes on the back. Brian Adams screaming out of the music, out of there as we rocked up in the transition. We just had the best fun, best time. We didn't know how to train.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we're doing. We didn't know what fuel to take. We would wait once every month. It would come the Triathlete magazine where you'd see Scott on there, and you'd read all the way through to try and understand how you do this thing.
Yeah.
You just had no idea.
Yeah. Where were you? Did you get into any big races that time, or what kind of distance were you racing?
So these were just small races to start with, and we just did the Olympic distant ones.
Yep.
And did the trap route through there, and then Dave and I decided that it was time to step up, and we did the 1988 it's now at Port Mac, but we did the Forster-Ton Curry Ironman.
Yeah, right.
In 1988, and so we jumped in my Ford XD, and we drove all the way up. It took us 16 hours to drive up there.
Oh, geez.
And we trained. We trained properly. What I do now, I just look at it and go, why wasn't I doing that back then?
Yeah, but
and
you
how
didn't
much
know.
quicker I'd be. We keep saying we'd be so much quicker if we knew what to do back then.
Yeah, fair
that
enough.
we do now. I still remember the day that Dave and I went out and we rode 120 kilometres on our bike, and then we got off the bike and then we ran 10 kilometres afterwards side by side. And we say side by side, it was competitive. Like I was breathing down his neck and he was breathing down. We could hear each other breathing and we were making comments. We get to the end and he goes to me, gee, that felt all right. I feel really good. I might go home now. Do you want something, mate? No, I'm fine. No, I said, I feel the same. He went home. I have walked in the door and I have collapsed. My mum has actually dragged me into the shower and just turned the cold water on. And, you know, when I look at that and I go, right, okay, we didn't do that very well. Whereas now, training for Ironman now, my bread and butter on a Saturday, 5 weeks out, is 150 on the bike and a 14K run on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Easy, and it's hard work. And then get up the next morning, swim 2.5 Ks and then run 30 on the Sunday.
Yeah.
And I could have done that 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to do it.
You didn't have the knowledge behind
There was no knowledge. We never ate. Like we would do all this with no food and a litre of water.
Yeah.
There was nothing. We had no knowledge at all.
So from racing back then to now, what have you learned and how is it helping you?
I think the thing I've learned is nutrition is a big part of it, and we didn't know that at all, and we weren't told or had any idea. I think the other thing also was that we actually train harder. Yeah. And I think that we didn't know that we could run 35 kilometres on a training day. We were kind of under the impression that, maybe look, if we can get to 20 kilometres in training, that's enough to do an Ironman in, which is what we did.
Yeah,
Whereas now, or even we did one bike ride that got to us 180K bike ride. Whereas now we're doing multiples and the runs off the bike are just intense.
Yeah.
And also heart rate, and also so that's another thing is heart rate. And, I'm very big on, and my coach talks about heart rate all the time.
Yeah, and being able to measure that as well.
And measure it at 75% heart rate or 85% heart rate, wherever I'm sitting, that's where I need to be. Yep. Otherwise, if I go over that, I'm going to blow up.
Yeah,
so I think just the lessons we've learned.
Yeah.
And I think the age groupers, we call ourselves age groupers, I think we've become more professional.
Yes.
So we sort of, whereas before we thought that we couldn't be professional.
Yeah. Because
we weren't professional.
Right.
So I think that's what I've learned the most.
What's the highest level you got to in racing, triathlon?
As in speed, as in pace, or
as in like level of where you were finishing.
Finishing, well, actually, funny enough, now.
Oh right.
I'm actually so I did the Busselton Ironman last year.
Yep.
Did a PB.
Yep.
4-minute PB.
Yeah.
So I was pretty happy with that, and ever since I started this back about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've been winning my age groups.
Oh, well done.
A few times. So I'm coming second or third.
Yep.
So that's probably been my best period, has been the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Have you gone to Kona in the last couple of years of this?
Kona's beyond me a little bit, I think. So I'd love to do Kona. I mean, I've done 4 Ironmans now. I've got to do 12 to get a free entry.
Okay, you're not too far off then.
My perfect race could get me there.
Okay.
And as triathletes, we're always chasing for that perfect race.
Of course.
We're great at finding excuses.
Yeah.
If it's not the wind, it's the tide, it's the wind, it's the
If it's not that and it's like not the conditions, it's a mental capacity while racing.
Just wasn't feeling great today. But no, so the plan is to keep doing these. Look, I'm 58 this year. If I can stay at them and the doctor doesn't tell me to stop, which he hasn't, which is great. I'm hoping that in my 60s I might be able to sort of get a better chance at a slot.
What is your dream race conditions or location to get there?
I think look, fast and flat's always the way.
Yeah.
And Busselton's got that. I did love the Melbourne course, but that was in 2015, but they haven't been doing that for a few years, so we hope they bring that back one day.
Would you like to get to Kona in the half or go to the full that you've been doing?
I think the full's the only way. I just wouldn't. I don't really like half Ironmans that much.
Yeah.
I just think the fulls are good fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And they are a good fun day. The hardest part about an Ironman is the training.
Okay.
The race day is a fun day, and you're just pushing your body as hard as you can.
Yeah.
But
it's only one training session.
That's right, one training session. And it really does come down to the last 3 hours.
Yeah.
So you should be able to get through, if you've done the training, the swim and the ride is bread and butter.
Yeah.
And then the first couple of hours in the run should feel comfortable and okay. And it's just that last 2 hour push to try and get to the end of the line.
So your ideal training prep for a big race, how many like months out do you start? You obviously keep a base of fitness year round, but say you're leading up to like Busso in December, as is you did December 2023. How many months did you start before pushing?
It's the last 8 weeks.
Okay.
So I know when I say 8 weeks, so from 8 weeks to back down to the third week, at 3 weeks out.
Yep.
If you looked at my Garmin, it always said, and my last 7 days always said, you've swum the last 7 days, you've swum 11 and a half, 12 kilometres. You've ridden 240 kilometres and you've run 60.
Yep.
So that's what it says for 8 weeks.
Wow.
So obviously every day Nate takes one off and you put one on.
Yep.
So that's the level of commitment. That's where it really starts to kind of hurt, and life takes over. Like you just eat, sleep.
Right.
That's all you do. Or in my case, work.
Work,
and that's all you do. Everything is you finish work, you train, you eat, you sleep.
Yeah.
Into bed, I go to bed at 9, I'm up at 6.
Yeah, similar.
And that's just what you have to do.
And your base training throughout the rest of the year, what does that look like? So now when you're not deeply racing, how do you still keep fit?
Deep race, so there's just be shorter stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd probably be looking at 5Ks a week swimming, 140 bike, and maybe 30 run.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's just a nice solid amount. That alters and changes. So like when we come into winter, it's harder to get out on the bike. So I'd probably switch, and I like to do a marathon every year in the middle of the year.
Yep.
So
which is your favourite location for that?
So you know what? Your favourite location is always the one you've had a PB at.
Okay.
Let's face it.
I'm not a marathon runner, so I couldn't tell you that.
I did the Adelaide Marathon. I've done as a 3:39.
Yeah, nice.
So that's my PB, and I did that. Actually, my PB was 2 years ago.
Is that so you can go to the next gen and jump in the ice bath straight after?
This is true. That's true. Straight in the ice bath upstairs is the way to go, because it definitely does the trick.
I don't think that is cold enough though. Controversial topic. I'm in that ice bath every weekend, and I don't think it's cold enough anymore.
They used to have ice in there. They used to have an ice.
It's come back.
Right. Okay.
It's only recently we get the towel bucket, empty the dirty towels out, fill ice in it, then we put it in the ice bath. There's about like a group of maybe four of us who go in on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
And we're like, get the ice in.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'll have to go give it a try now.
Yeah, that's a fun fact of what happens upstairs the next gen.
Yes, that's good to know. Good to know.
So from there, what's your next race? What are you training for next year or this year?
So
2024?
I've got a couple of long goals. I just I'm definitely going to want to do Cairns in 25.
Yes.
So that I've called that the lock.
Okay.
So that's a lock.
Yep.
I'm looking at the Victor Harbour race, the Victor 100 in March.
Yep.
Then after that, I might do Silver Sands, which is in February, because that's just a throw in, and then a marathon in August. If everything's going really well and I'm having a really good year, Busso this year again.
Okay.
I
see you there.
I want to do. So that's the plan, is to try and give that a crack. I do know a couple of guys are doing it this year as well, so it'd be nice to race with them. It's always nice to race with people that you know as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
So hopefully, but we'll wait and see how the year goes
with
on.
Busso and Cairns, how do you go with the heat training as well? A lot of the people who've been on the podcast have spoken about doing both those races.
Yep.
And just saying how much more effort they have to put into maybe jumping into an indoor pool with a wetsuit on, or obviously saunaing, or they like the old trainer in the laundry trick.
I fit into a very interesting category there. I'm a massive sweater.
Okay.
So I have sweat rate. So my sweat rate is around about 2.5 litres an hour.
Okay. How are you testing that while training, or?
Well, so while training, so what we did was my coach said to me that Nigel said that I should write down my weights before and after runs. Mm-hmm. Also put in there the temperature of the day, and also what liquid you've had during that period.
Okay, yep.
So some of my runs were in temperature, it's around about 20 degrees.
Nice.
On a 20k run, I was losing about 3 or 4 kilos from starting.
Wow.
And so I put it in an Excel spreadsheet. And I emailed
if you're not a triathlete, if you don't have a spreadsheet of either your times, your training.
So that was interesting. That was really interesting. So then he came back and said, "Boy, you're a sweater." So so that means that for me in an Ironman, I need to consume about 22 litres of liquid.
How do you carry that?
Well, I don't. So the good thing is that with triathlon with bike, I carry 3 bottles on me, one on my cockpit, one and then 2 underneath, and one on the back. Mm-hmm. One of them on the back's got my nutrition in there, which is Hammer Nutrition, which I use as a carbohydrate. And then every 10 or 15 k's, there's a water station where you can throw your bottle out and grab another one.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I do that. It's not so much for me that it's just the water. It's what's in the water is important.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I'm not the greatest lover of it, but because it's what they have on course, you have to just get used to it. So I drink the Gatorade.
Yep.
So that's the one thing I have to have. So I swap over those bottles there, and then in the run, there's 22 stops or 22 water stops because every 2 kilometres. So every 2 kilometres, I drink 200 mils of Gatorade, 200 mils of Coke, and I put ice down my top.
Okay.
So that's how I get my.
That keeps you in mind of how hard the marathon really is, though.
It is very hard, and it does keep your mind off it. The only challenge with it is because it's so many stops. I'm not a great runner and drinker.
Okay.
So I kind of need to walk through it.
Right.
So I otherwise get all over myself.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing in Ironman where you start really getting into your times and wanting to get PBs gets harder because your body can't go any faster. So you've got to find ways to be quicker through transitions.
Yes.
So that's how I find that. And just to say on that liquid I took in, never went to the toilet once for the whole day.
Oh, wow.
So I am definitely a heavy sweater.
Okay.
And it is the right amount.
And then the post-race as well, how much, what are you doing post-race to help your hydration there too?
Look, to be honest, when I finished, I had some obviously water and I didn't really feel like eating because I'd eaten that much carbs during the day.
Okay, yeah.
Had a glass of wine.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's not the pub, what are you doing?
And it didn't go down very well at all.
No?
No, it wasn't very nice. So I just sat. It was more with family because family and friends were there. So we had a bit of a drink afterwards, and it was there for 20 minutes. And but I think the interesting thing about it's what you don't realise your body goes through.
Yeah.
So after that Busselton race, I stood up and had to walk 400 metres to get my bike.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't walk. My back seized up on me and I had to have someone hold me up. And then what really was weird, I started chattering. And it was warm outside. It was 24 degrees.
Wow.
My teeth just started chattering and I could not stop. Anyway, so I limped my way down and my sister-in-law, Monique, was holding me, walking down. And then I sat down and she went and got my bike. And then I came back and I got up and I was fine.
Oh.
It's really weird. So
you ever
just
find
your
out
body
what
just
caused
weird. No idea.
That's really
No
strange. I've
idea.
never
Just
heard
went
of that before.
in hypothermia and just things of that nature. So then I was fine, and then I ate when I got home and I was fine. But just because you're taking so much food in through liquid based, you just didn't feel hungry. The next day was different. I was really hungry the next day.
What's your post-race meal? Obviously the next day if you're consuming it, but what's your ideal meal after pushing something that hard?
I always a chicken burger goes down really well. Chicken burger and chips, hot chips. I love my hot chips. Yeah, and they're just a really nice way to get some carbs in as also like a celebration as well.
Yeah. And your pre-race meal, is it like a good carb loader?
No, it is a great carb load. So I for pre-Ironman I ate all day. So I think I had 9 pancakes with half a punnet of strawberries and half a punnet of raspberries on top and ice cream. So that was breakfast. Yeah, and then I just keep going. So I consumed I think it was about 800 grams of carbohydrates for the day before. Yeah. So I had a plan. Again, it was a solid plan, and what I drank and ate during the day and the day before was all set up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then what do you think about salt loading before a race as well to help that hydration?
Big into salt.
Yeah.
Really, really big into salt. And I said that's another reason why the Gatorade is a good option there, and the Hammer Nutrition is really, really good from that point of view. Yeah. I don't take too many gels for Ironman, but what I did this time was I was having a chat at Next Gen to Steve McKenna, and he has that fuel belt. Yes. So
you need a nerd belt.
I got a nerd belt, so I bought a nerd belt.
Good.
So I got a nerd belt, and I had two bottles at the front of me on the nerd belt. Mm-hmm. He was really nice, and he gave me another 4 bottles. Yeah. And I had them as my special needs bag. So in that, I actually it was 150 mils in each, and I put a couple of drops off. We've got this stuff we sell in our shop, which is a liquid electrolyte. Mm-hmm. So you put 3 drops into a bottle, and then I also put a half a teaspoon of Celtic salt.
Oh, you know what? My brother's been talking about this salt lately. Yeah. And I was like to him, I've never even heard about that. So it's just
salt. It's a really interesting salt because I find that some salts are very strong and very sodium based, mm-hmm. whereas this it's almost a bit sweet. Okay. So when you drink it, doesn't really taste like I was drinking a salty drink. Yeah. So I found that because I also have cramping issues. Right. So that's also part of the reason why getting my salt in. So sometimes when I finish a race, you'll just look down my legs and you'll see salt just like I can lick the salt off my calves.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting that
I have the issue of like I get migraines after a race because I don't have any, like my salt is so low.
I get that.
Before, I've never really heard anybody else have this problem.
Yeah.
And so, but a lot of people I've spoken to have said, yeah, you really need to salt load properly and intake while you're racing.
Yeah, that's right. There's something. There is something you can have. You can actually have too much salt, and it can cause some issues as well. And it's got a name, and I can't remember.
I think I've heard about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, your body can always shut down.
Yeah, and that's right. I do know someone that actually I think had that problem.
Wow.
Where they had too much salt.
Yeah.
So I was a bit mindful of that as well. So that just these things I have to be careful with.
Yeah.
Try and get that stuff in.
Going back a little bit, where did you become a chef?
So I started my apprenticeship in Melbourne in 1982.
Yep.
Year 10.
Oh, wow.
I finished. I only did year 10. I just wasn't really liking school. Probably sleeping too much from
all the riding your bike around.
Riding your bike around. But I was just lucky enough to get a job and loved cooking. Just loved cooking. Cooked at home all the time.
Yeah.
So I started my apprenticeship there at a seafood restaurant and worked there for I think it was about a year and a half. And then I moved to the World Trade Centre, which was in the Melbourne CBD, and it was a bit like a function centre.
Yep.
And then moved on to a place called the Australian Club, which the Australian Club was excellent for me because it was a gentleman's club for the rich and wealthy, but it was mainly day shifts and not many weekends. So it was allowed. That's where I started getting into triathlons.
Right.
So it allowed me to do where the other jobs were nights and made it quite difficult.
Yeah.
So I did that until I qualified, and then I worked at a one-hat restaurant in St Kilda called the Willows, and that was quite a nice little place to work at. I was the third chef there.
Yep.
And that was a good experience. Then I took 2 years. I did something completely different. I had a business, and my friend of mine, we bought a business selling fruit and veg.
Okay.
So we used to go to the market.
Yep.
And we had about 40 different restaurants we supplied. Get up at 3 a.m, go down by the fruit and veg, and then deliver it to them.
Did you ride your bike there too?
No. Well, that's funny. That's where I kind of stopped riding, and that's where it all kind of went a bit haywire because the business just was 4 a.m, and I was cooked by 4 p.m.
Of course, yeah.
I did that, and then got out of that after a couple of years and went back to Lynch's, which is a restaurant in there as well, Melbourne, and again no training. Occasionally, I was in a bit of a bad spot. Like I was working 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is go for a run at the end of the day.
Of course,
so
once you've been setting up all day as well.
Oh, and there were long shifts. Like when I say 80 hours, there was 80 hours of working, and then there was a 3-hour break in the middle of the day that I was just fall asleep. So that wasn't great. And then I met my wife. So she's from Adelaide, and met Suzanne, and I moved over here and worked at a restaurant called the Mecca Bar, which was in Rundle Street.
Yep.
Did that for about 18. No, I didn't last 18 months there. I think I lasted 9 months. I don't know why. I know why. Yeah, right. So I remember coming in winter, the owner comes in and goes, right, to the kitchen hand, which over here they call them dish pigs, which I never understood why you would call a kitchen hand dish pig, but they call them dish pigs over here. And they were happy to call themselves dish pigs.
Yeah.
Which was really strange.
They like to call people pigs in SA.
I know. Talk yourself up a little bit. And he said, look, okay, it's really quiet now, so I'm going to send the kitchen hand home, or the dish pig, he said. And I said, okay, but who's going to clean the kitchen? He said, you guys will. And I've just gone, sorry?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I'm not a snob, but I'm working here 80 hours a week, and then you want me to clean the kitchen afterwards and wash all the dishes.
Yeah.
And I went, right. So I said to someone, where can I go where I don't have to wash dishes? And they said, hotels.
Okay.
So I thought, okay. So anyway, I applied for a job at the Stanford Grand. And they gave me a job as the chef de partie down there, which is like one of the levels in banqueting. And then about 2 months later, I became the sous chef in banqueting. And then 2 years after that, I was the executive chef.
Oh, right.
So I ran the hotel for 10 years.
Yep.
So I was with Stanford for 10 years. I ran the hotels for 3 years. I ran both the Stanford Grand and the Stanford Plaza.
Yes.
So I had 200 staff that reported to me.
Wow.
And I just floated between both hotels. And it was a highly stressful job.
Yeah.
Christmas Day, just think every time you're having fun, I was working.
Yeah.
So that kind of got a bit much.
Did you meet a lot of people out of that, like as in
Lots.
rich and famous?
I cooked for Bill Clinton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I got a phone call from our head office in Sydney, and they are having Bill Clinton come over into New Zealand and for the APEC conference.
Yeah.
And they needed someone to go over and cook for him because they'd had some challenges with their head chef.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I'm happy to do that, and it was for 3 weeks, but my family needs to come. I said my son had just turned 3, and my daughter was 1.
Yeah, it's fair.
I said, this is not great. So we need to do something about this. So they said, yep, no, we'll do that. So we flew over, and I cooked for Bill Clinton. Met him as well.
Yep.
And I still remember the funny story I cooked for a lady called Madeleine Albright, I think her name was.
Yeah.
And what I had to do was to lock myself in a room, and with a kitchen. So I had to make a self kitchen up.
Yep.
That I could actually cook for 3 people.
Okay.
And it was Madeleine Albright, and it was a Russian delegate. Who it was, I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, and I had to be in there 2 hours before they arrived, and I couldn't leave till an hour after they left.
Yep.
And once they were in there, I could not leave, even to go to the toilet.
Oh.
It was just there. Anyway, just as I'm about to start to serve the meal, this gentleman walks in with a gun, and he's got his machine, and he was obviously a Russian military person, and he was standing there, and he just looked at me, didn't say hello.
Did you work harder then or not?
I just looked at him. Right? It actually got to a point after about half an hour, I thought to myself, no, this is not fun. So I thought, I'm going to make it fun. So I started talking to him.
Yeah.
And just started cracking jokes at him, right? And looking up at him and waving at him. What's he going to do? He's not going to shoot me because I'm cooking for him.
Did you ask him if he wanted to try any of the food while you were
No, he did not speak one word in the 2 hours. He said nothing.
Wow.
Just looked blankly straight at me.
That's a lot of training going into that.
Wow. I thought, wow. But yeah, so I did that.
So going back to Bill Clinton, did he have like a recipe that he wanted, or were you allowed to cook whatever you want?
No. I think we could basically cook whatever we wanted. It's really strange because he was on different floors, and there was always food going up, but you never really knew what was for him.
Right.
So, and I just never felt comfortable. I just never felt, they'd always come down and say, the president would like X.
Okay.
And I think to myself, that's for you. Do you know what I mean? Like I kind of think, no, I don't know. But no, we got to meet him and did a couple of dinners for him as well. And yes, that was a really good. I actually didn't go outside the hotel for 9 days.
Wow.
I didn't have any fresh air in my face for 9 days.
Oh God.
So I was basically on 24-hour. I get a phone call. Bill Clinton wants something. I have to go down and watch it being made.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
God, that's not like a good story to have though.
Yeah, it is a good story.
Like that.
It is a very good story. The funny part of the story was, I find the funniest part was, this hotel, the Stanford Hotel, had a massive patisserie kitchen, and they could cook anything you wanted.
Yeah.
Anyway, and one of the things with these sort of things is that there's not a lot of money in the room hire. So people wanted to have Bill Clinton stay in, so he was getting it for free almost. Yeah. So the general manager had given everyone a task and said straight out, you are to charge them for everything. Mm-hmm. There's no freebies from now on. Fair enough. Room is free, but he gets charged full amount. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so he's what we call the president's chef. I always found it funny. He had a big tag that said president's executive chef, and he had his suit on. He came down. He goes, he had a Nana's apple pie in his hand, right. frozen. No, and he's given it to me, and he says, "Could you please heat this up as for the president?" In my head, I'm going, "That's not for the president." Right, but I said, "No, we could have made you a fresh one. You just had to let us know." And he goes, "Yes, but you would have charged me $40." And he looked at the packaging on the pack and he went, "This is only costing me $20." Oh. And I said, "Yes, but I'm going to charge you $20 to heat it up." So that's then gone back through all the thing. My general manager has come down, screaming down the lift, right? Walked up and he has high-fived me. He said, "That was the funniest thing that's happened to me all day." Because they've obviously complained that I actually was disrespectful. Yeah. I wasn't being disrespectful.
Well, you're being honest. You're not going to feed him a crappy fruit.
What is that pie? Anyway, funny. Anyway.
So out of your chef career, what was like the most iconic or your favourite thing to make? No matter where you worked. Like, was there anything that you're like, oh, I really enjoyed making that?
No. I think there was one dinner. I think there was one dinner that I got the opportunity to cook for the owner of Stanford.
Yep.
And it was one of his birthdays, and there was like 20 people, and there was no expense spared, and we just bought everything we can get our hands on. We bought truffles, $2,000 worth of truffles. Mm-hmm. We got I think it was $2,500 worth of continental shelf crabs, basically as big as a
dinner plate,
soccer ball.
Yeah,
soccer ball,
right.
Huge, and they were very. I think I just looked at that and went, "What are we going to do with this?"
Yeah.
So we had all these things to make things with, and we just thought. So we actually made consomme and made clear soup out of it. Wow. So we used a $2,500 crab and we made a clear consommé soup out of the bones and then just put some meat on top. And I went, okay. So we've just spent that soup for 10 people was $2,500. So I suppose as chefs, we kind of look at what we like to think is the things we like to do all the time is when we do unusual things like that.
Yeah.
Or you get the opportunity
to kind of go unlimited without.
To limited, that's right. No, the one thing at hotels was that I was responsible for buying all the food product. So I actually had an open slate to buy anything that I wanted. So at the hotel we had 22 apprentices through the 4-year apprenticeship, and I was always big on finding things that they could not see or that I think they should see before they're qualified.
Yeah. And
things like a truffle or a morel or or saffron, things like that. They had to see and use it and taste it before they got. So I'd always be buying things in and then getting in trouble later from the purchasing guy because I bought these things. So I think I got more pleasure out of teaching than actually cooking myself for myself.
Have to ask now, are you picky when you go out for dinner yourself or when you go out for a meal?
If I'm a person that if I'm sitting at 40,000 feet in the air, I assess what I can. My expectation is lower because of what it is.
Yep.
If someone invites me to dinner and cooks me something, I'm never unhappy.
Yep.
Because normally I'm the one cooking it.
Okay.
But if I go to a fine dining restaurant, then the expectation changes. From a service point of view.
Know what should be on the plate.
How it should look and how it should feel.
Yep.
So that's probably the only time. So I kind of grade it a little bit.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'm actually very easy to cook for.
Okay. Yeah. Then the health food shop came along.
Yeah, so the health food store was interesting. So after I did cooking for a while, I jumped into and I was a sales manager for a company called Rubbermaid that sold kitchen equipment.
Oh, cool.
And that sort of came to an end, and then I was like, what am I going to do next? And I thought to myself, I could either go down the path of I didn't want to go back into kitchens not because I didn't want to be a cook or a chef. I just didn't want to work the nights.
Yeah.
And I had young kids, and they were 15 and 18, so I was kind of wanted to be around a bit, and so I needed something different to do. So then we looked around a few places. Then up came Foods for Life in the city, and it kind of made sense. I said I'd always had an active. I'd always done Ironmans. I'd done some marathons. This had a cafe attached to it as well, so I thought I can do that part as well. So both my wife just jumped in. Suzanne just jumped in and said, let's give this a go. And it's been the best thing we've ever done. We've had it for 12 years now.
Nice. So give us a bit of a rundown where your shop is and where people can come and find you.
So we're at 100 Gawler Place, and the shop's been in the city for 50 years. We've owned it for 12. It's been in multiple locations. Yep. We're between Peary and Grenfell Street.
Yep.
So it's that and a cafe, and we've got healthy options. We've got a couple of non-healthy options. we're either super healthy or we're dietary.
Okay.
So gluten-free, vegan. We do some keto things as well. We make our own almond milk. We've got all the different types of milks for coffees. We've got a naturopath on all the time.
Cool.
We stock 3,500 naturopathy or products relating to that industry. We have a room that you can actually have private consults from a naturopath point of view as well. And the best thing for me, what it's been great for, has been for my Ironman journey, and it's really taught me. I'm not a big supplement taker.
Yeah, neither am I. So, I take the odd magnesium when I'm sore or whatever.
That's right. So magnesium, but not complete. So they've actually been able to teach me things that I should be taking, and that is good one is sage tablets. Massive sweater. Okay. So taking sage tablets helps reduce sweat.
Oh.
So I found that, and I actually found that worked a little bit when I did busso. Things like vitamin C, which especially when I'm training near the end of an Ironman, the training part, your body just gets completely knocked out, and immune tablets are very important. Probiotic.
Yes.
That was the one thing, because from a gut point of view, if because of all the stuff we're putting in, gels and sugars and all this sort of gear, you need something to settle your gut down. So I found that's been really, really great.
Oh, nice.
It's been a great fun business.
Yeah, definitely. That definitely goes well by the side of your racing and everything.
That's right. Yes, and we stock some magnesium stuff, and we also stock pickle juice and all those sort of gear. So we've got all those little things burping away as well.
Yeah, nice. Name a sliding door moment in your life that you've either turned left or right, and it's kind of a pivotal moment that's changed the way that you were going.
So that I actually wrote down here nothing, and then my wife Suzanne said to me, beautiful wife said to me, why don't you talk about your mum? I thought, okay, well, that's going to be a tough one. So she passed away during COVID.
Yes.
And so I had an opportunity to go left or right.
Yep.
And so my family are excellent, but we have an addictive nature.
Okay.
So that addictive nature can be anything from drinking alcohol to being gamers to being Ironman.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so you've taken it in the exercise.
So I took the other path.
Yes.
So the path was, because I'm the oldest out of my 3 other brothers and sister.
Yep.
That I kind of felt, I couldn't be, they live in Melbourne, so I couldn't even go to Melbourne for the funeral, sorry.
Yes. Yep.
So I took that path to get into Ironman again. And so it was actually in that August time is when it kind of really hit, and I lost 8 kilos in 4 weeks.
Yep.
And I weighed myself every day, and I put it in my Garmin phone, and that's how I knew. And I didn't lose it from silly diet.
No.
I had a chat with my coach about he's always telling me I need to lose weight.
Yep.
And so I trained hard. Mm-hmm. Saturday mornings was pouring with rain, and everyone's saying I'm not riding. Oh, I'm out there riding and doing 120k rides.
Yeah.
But what I did was I just looked at my diet, and I took dessert out completely, and reduced my protein down a little bit.
Okay.
And increased my vegetables.
Everybody says go increase your protein though.
You know what? When I was in kitchens, we used to always work on 180 grams of protein for a function.
Okay.
Well, that was the size you would, when you're allocating meat or chicken, it would be 180 grams.
Yep.
So now, if you go to the supermarkets, you can't buy a chicken that size.
Yeah.
They're all really big. So I reduced my chicken down to 150 grams portion size.
Okay.
140 grams. Few more carbohydrates.
Did you do that based off a percentage of your body weight like a lot of people talk about? You just by look?
Just by look.
Yep.
And then the other thing I did also was I cooked my green vegetables less, so I chewed more.
Okay.
So it made them more crunchy, which is, again, it's not a problem. They're more nutritious anyway. Mm-hmm. And doing it that way, it meant that I worked my saliva and my mouth was working, so it actually made me feel hungry. Right. And then every time I felt hungry, have a cup of tea.
Okay. Have you got a tea that you love?
Peppermint. I'm a bit of a I have peppermint in the morning, and I have a peppermint at night before I go to bed. And
in terms of, were you like having coffee and everything as well? Or did you
I did. I'm a bit of. I still have my 2 coffees a day.
Yep.
Day always. I always have a toasted cheese and kimchi sandwich for breakfast.
Yep.
All the time.
Do you stock these in the shop?
I do stock the kimchi, so it's quite nice actually on gut feeling. So that's and again, having the kimchi is good for your gut health.
Yeah.
So there's all sort of fits in. And then I have a salad for lunch. Yeah. So that's my general diet. But that's how I lost the weight, was purely just managing it. But also I took away red meat as well, because I find red meat doesn't digest.
Honestly, I could live without red meat. It's not something that I'd run and jump for if I didn't have to have it.
No, I think it's an occasion. For me now, it's an occasional food.
Yeah, I'd honestly rather eat like salmon or, like you said, a bit of chicken or...
absolutely.
But even then,
chicken chops.
Oh.
So I'm a big chicken chop fan.
Yeah, right.
So which is basically the thigh with the bone in. Mm-hmm. And when you're cooking with that, instead of when it's got the bone in, it's more flavour.
Right, rather than the chicken breast.
And portion size too. So it keeps the portion size right as well.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to sort of keep your portion size up, flavour in there. Lots of herbs.
Yes. How's your herb cabinet look? Like, is it stocked?
It's pretty good actually. So so one of the things at home was every time we plant something at home, I had a belief that had to have some form of value to the house. Okay. And to my kitchen. So I planted out the front, I planted rosemary, which I think everyone should have rosemary somewhere. Yeah. So that gets used a lot. So in our backyard, we've got, and it's not a big backyard, but I've got a mandarin tree, I've got a pink lady apple tree, I've got a lemon tree, a nectarine tree, blood orange, which is not growing very well. I've got quince, which is going really well, pomegranate, olives, raspberries, passion fruit. Can I say any more? There's one more. There's another fruit called Cape York berry. Okay. Which is a really different little berry. It's like a little casing and it's got a berry inside.
I have to go back to the olives. Which kind of olives do you have? We used to have an olive farm. Right. I like the olives that you make oil out of.
Yeah. So this.
I literally grew up on that.
So it's a Kalamata olive. Yeah. And they're probably they come out probably about 10 centimetres big.
Yeah, nice.
So the story there is that I used to work with this gentleman, Harry, at Stanford Plaza. Mm-hmm. and he lives down McLaren Vale way, and he used to bring his olives in all the time. I said, Harry, I love your olives.
Yeah.
So he actually went and got a wild olive tree, and he grafted his tree onto this, and I've planted it in my backyard.
Oh,
so now it's
good.
huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do like olives.
Nice.
Yes.
So what's the importance through your Ironman journey or through your life of being fit, showing your kids like the importance of that?
One thing with I think it's important as parents that we lead an active life.
Yeah.
And how active that is doesn't need to be Ironman. It doesn't need to be, but set some boundaries in place and just little things you can do to try and put some positive actions in there as well. So you look at my son Mitchell, he's 27, and he's a massive gamer.
Yeah.
But tennis.
Okay.
He played tennis from when he was younger, from when he was 4 or 5 years old, and he still plays tennis winter and summer, and he's just been getting into golf lately.
Oh, how good.
So it's his way to get out and do things.
Yeah.
So I think where you said to him straight out, would you ever do an Ironman? He just go, you're an idiot. he laughs at the stuff I do. He goes,
but do
I'm
you
not
think
doing
that's because
that.
he's seen you do that though?
I think he looks at it and goes, there's no way I'm doing that. That's just a waste of my time. It's just too much effort.
Yeah.
So that's good from that point. And then my daughter, she's a professional dancer.
Right.
And lives in Melbourne and massive gym junkie. So she's right into that sort of stuff as well. So that's also from the positive things that we've seen from myself.
Yeah.
My wife, Suzanne, who, excellent mother, did everything for the kids as mothers do when they're younger and didn't want to give herself up to do things. Well, she just started doing F45 3 or 4 times a week, jumps in, does the Jodie Lee trek, which is I don't know how they do it, 32K walk on day one and then a 35 on the next day. I think they're in Kaipo this year, so that's the weekend that I'm not allowed to do anything. I am support crew.
Well, don't you think she's been support crew for
That's
your
right.
races?
I have to do it. I can't even not lock it out. Like I had someone the other week ask me to do a function for them for their 40th birthday, and I went, okay, I can do it. And then I looked and went, oops, no, I can't. I said, Mum, I can't do it. He goes, why? I said, because
I got Powerade to hold.
I said no. I did not do it once. I had a function at we were catering at Cameron Oval. I couldn't do it that one day, but this was a friend, so I said no. You have to move your date, mate.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think it's important in parents that we do keep them active, and I think one of the biggest challenges we've got in society is Uber Eats.
Yeah.
I think it's a real problem. I think that we
like
fail to go
on-demand food kind of thing.
Yep, we feel like we don't walk around to pick up the food anymore. We don't go to look in the cupboard. And
I'm the complete opposite, right? Ever since, I don't think I've ever been a fan of Uber Eats because I'd rather go and look in the cupboard and be like, oh, what ingredients have I got? And I'll put them together.
That's right. Absolutely
it's so much more interesting.
Way more interesting, but it's a real problem because they're not walking around the shop and getting it, or they're not being adventurous.
Yeah.
It's also too easy to have the wrong foods as well.
Yeah, true.
I don't know many people that buy healthy food on Uber Eats.
Yeah.
Don't see many. We actually do Uber Eats at our shop.
Yep.
One of them, can't remember which one we do. We get 2 orders a year.
Right.
Because no one wants to buy healthy stuff on Uber Eats.
Fair enough,
Doesn't work. So that's the thing. That's the key takeaway, I think, is that we just need to...
Like that on-demand service has kind of ruined the healthy eating.
Plus also, the money's not going to... is going to America in some cases because 30% of the value is paid to them.
Yeah, right.
So go around and pay for cash. Do it that way. Give it straight to the person here and not let it go away.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So talking about that, are you like a big farmer's market kind of shopper or?
A little bit. Can be a little bit. I think because our shop, we have a fruit and veg supplier.
Okay.
So I don't need to go and do that sort of stuff. I've got it pretty much there, and I can just ring up or place an order on something we need.
Yeah.
And do it that way. So not really as much as I used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really much.
Fair enough. So what are you consuming at the moment as in podcasts? Well, before we started this podcast, you didn't know where to find them. So TV shows and books then.
Well, I you know what? I have had no time.
Yeah.
To really look at any of that sort of stuff. I put music in when I run and I ride.
What's your go-to listen while you ride? And
I think it's always Aussie classics.
Okay.
I think it's all beat stuff. Something that's got a bit of a beat in it.
Yeah.
AC/DC, all those sort of guys. It just goes on a reel.
Yeah.
Sometimes I actually get a little bit carried away, and I might have seen something on the TV. And gone, oh, I might look at that. And I think I did Wham the other month when I was doing a 30K run. I did Wham's Greatest Hits on repeat for 3.5 hours. That was funny.
Do you get singing too?
I do sing a little bit every now and then. So yeah, I'm not great at singing, so you don't want to hear that.
Keep that to your running
then.
Right,
yes, to running.
How good. And on social media, What do you see a lot of when you're scrolling? If you
so
get time to
scrolling is lots of cooking.
Yeah.
So I follow all the Steve McKenna's and all the triathlete guys, and
Yep.
And then lots of cooking channels and
How do you go
restaurants.
watching shows like Masterchef or like a Top Chef with Gordon Ramsay?
I don't mind Masterchef. I think Masterchef's been a great thing to promote the industry.
Yeah.
I think the only challenge is that sometimes those winners win it and then go and work in the kitchen and realise that's actually really hard.
Yeah.
And the hours are really, really long. The skill level, I look at some of that skill level, I don't think I could do some of that stuff they
Really?
do. So it's very, very interesting. But mind you, they're cooking for 1 and 2 people.
True.
It's a very big difference cooking for more than one. So,
Yeah.
So,
So a couple of the cooking shows you don't mind.
no.
Is there anything else you want to add?
The only last thing, I think it's really important to understand that doing these Ironmans and training thing, it's your support network is so important.
Yeah, you're not the first person to say that. I reckon a few people that I've interviewed now, like on this podcast, they've always come back to that topic of
It's just
that
like
support around you.
Suzanne is just there. My wife Suzanne, she's there every single time. She's always bashing away in the background.
Yep.
When I'm limping around, she's telling me to stop limp. Stop up your whinging.
Yeah.
Just get it done. All this sort of gear. So that's been excellent. And it's also your friendship group as well that people. And the other thing is also a lot of my friends that we socialise with don't do this.
Yeah, right.
So they think I'm mad. Right. So they just don't. They're involved.
Yeah.
But they don't understand why I do it.
I get that a lot at work. They're like, "Oh, have you been through like another 2K swim this morning
right,
before you
right.
got here?"
Yeah, all the time.
And then the other ones are just like, "Oh, I just rolled out of bed and came to work." I was like, "You have so much time in the morning
Yes.
to get something done, or after work. Like, how are you wasting it?"
Well, I find that what I do when I'm in that last 8 weeks where I just really just don't see anyone, I find that I post a lot more on Instagram. Just
Okay.
my what I've done for the day, just the Garmin piece. I think the reason for that is I just want to let people know that I'm here, and the reason I haven't seen you is because this is the reason why.
Yeah.
And it's not a show off thing at all. It's just more to because I just feel I do feel guilty. I do feel guilty that I say, "Hey, come round to our house," and I'm like, "Yeah, I can't." Or we leave early.
Yeah. Well, that's a good excuse to leave early though.
Yeah, true.
I wouldn't be complaining about that one.
No.
And in terms of training with the Lakers group, how important do you think that is to get into a group to train with?
You know what? So I've been with the Lakers for 6 years now, and I started off just doing running with them on Tuesday nights when someone, friend of mine, Adam, suggested I go have a crack at them, and never trained with anyone my whole career. Right. So never did any training at all. So even all the other Ironmans I'd done, and living in Melbourne, always trained by myself. Always wrote my own schedules. Never had any form of interaction with people and coaching.
Yep.
So it's been excellent. I mean, I don't do all the sessions with them, but I do as many as I feel comfortable do.
Do you know Amanda and Tim as well?
I do Amanda and Tim. Yes, I do know Amanda and Tim.
They're going to be on the podcast in 2 episodes time.
Right.
So you might have to leave them a question to ask as well.
Well, might have to actually, yes, because they're a good bunch of characters. Those two.
How good.
Yeah.
Let's get on to some listener questions. A couple of people have sent you in some fun
2.
ones.
How many?
A couple? No, we've got 5 questions.
5 questions.
We got 5, yeah.
Got 5 friends.
The first one is, who's your favourite sibling or sister?
Oh, so that's my sister Megan, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, I've only got one sister, so it's pretty easy.
Yeah, well, we'll say sibling then.
So sibling. Oh,
we'll just say
Megan.
It's her. Make her happy.
I'll just say because she obviously put it in, so
Yes.
make her feel good.
She did. Does your knowledge as a chef help with your training, and also having the health food shop help with it?
Definitely, 100%. It's not knowing how to cook things, what to cook, and I said before, like cooking vegetables less.
Yep.
I know what I wouldn't cook sweet potato less because crunchy's not great. But to have broccoli cooked less or broccolini, definitely 100% makes an effort. And I find one of the things that's actually given me is some really strong mental toughness as well, which I know is different to cooking because we're doing 80 hours a week. We're standing on our feet all day.
Yeah, but it's a skill to have, especially with Ironman. Like, it's pretty much the same. You were out there for the same amount of time as what you were as a chef.
12-hour days are not a problem for me.
It's just another shift.
That's right. And that's the thing. It has set me up.
Yeah.
For just being able to stand on my feet all day is something I can actually do quite easy. I mean, these days when I do 12-hour shifts for a catering job, I'm pretty much cooked at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Not like an Ironman.
Yeah. Well, that's part of your training, right?
Yeah.
The next one is, how do you fuel for training versus training for fuel for a race? This was one of your teammates Also known as milli, sent this in.
Oh, milli. So how do I fuel for a race?
Yeah, versus how do you fuel for just your training?
So it definitely is different because again, I'm trying to manage my weight as well. So when I'm training, I'm very up and down. So Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are swims, and Tuesday and Thursdays are generally a bike and run.
And so all of your swims done at Next Gen, or do you do any outdoor?
Maybe one of them might be at a pool down at West Lakes.
Yes.
So generally on those Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my fueling is generally lower. But whereas on the Tuesday mornings and the Thursday mornings, I load really heavily up for the afternoon.
Okay.
So I'd say double.
Right.
Double. So I find that swimming doesn't. Otherwise, if I don't do that, I tend to struggle in the run on the Tuesday and Thursday at the end.
How do you
ran out of fuel.
Like getting really hungry after your swims? How do you what's your solution to that?
Hot chips.
Yeah. Hot chippies are always the answer.
Hot chips is always the way to go. Or if I'm on Fridays, I have a bit of a thing. I always do. So I go for a swim on Fridays. I have a large bowl of hot chips at the Next Gen.
Yeah.
And a small glass of wine.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I just read my Instagram pages and just read stuff.
And is that when Mark Aston walks past?
That's when Mark Aston would normally walk past.
So quickly, funny story and how we got to know each other. We were in the sauna at Next Gen after I'd done a swim. I think you'd done a big swim too.
That's right, yeah.
And I never go in that sauna. It just happened to be the day I was like, all right, I just want to jump in there for 20 minutes. And he goes to me, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm like an interior architect, have a podcast. And then you walk in, he goes, what do you do? You're like, I'm an Ironman and have a health food shop. He's like, you two podcast together.
That's what we need to do. And it worked.
It was so good.
Yeah. That's been great.
Got a guest and all I needed to do was walk in the sauna.
That's right. That's what you need to do. Hey, you find people.
All right, next question. What's your favourite ingredient in your cupboard or spice cabinet?
Right.
What's something that you cook with a lot? Or...
Rosemary.
Okay.
I think rosemary.
So everybody needs to go to their garden centre and buy a plant.
Rosemary and herbs are big for me. So I just find that whatever you add, whatever you're cooking, whether it's a piece of fish, whether it's chicken or it's meat, if you can actually throw some rosemary or a herb or thyme or oregano or sage, because I've got all those three as well, I just throw that in the pan when I'm cooking it.
Yeah,
changes the flavour.
Yeah.
So I think herbs are my big thing. I mean, I could say there's not other things, but I think that's the main ones.
Main thing.
It's not the protein that it's important, it's what you're adding to it to give it flavour.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I've been trying to tell my mum, so they've just moved into a new house with she's got a great kitchen now, and now she started to cook more. And I'm like, Mum, the secret ingredient is the herbs. Like, it can just make or break a meal, and now she's got on the wagon.
There you go, perfect.
Yeah.
That's all we need. Herbs is the key.
Okay,
and you don't need to buy them either. I think it's important they grow really quickly.
And grow them, yeah.
And I always say, there's probably even around your house, there'd be someone's got rosemary.
Yeah, right.
There has to be someone, and you should never have to buy it.
I'm going to have to plant one now.
You just go for a walk, and you just go for a walk around, you'll find someone, you just rip it off theirs.
Yeah, all right, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah. If not, I'm going to buy one and put
one
in the back garden.
Yeah.
So if you could cook a meal with only 3 ingredients, any 3 ingredients, what are you making? Are you bringing the caviar back?
No, not caviar. 3 ingredients. All right, okay.
I thought 5 would be too many.
Risotto, Boreo rice, chicken stock, Parmesan cheese.
Oh, that's a good
one. I
like
risotto. I do like risotto. It's one of my favourite.
Nice.
And then you can add so many things to it on top of that if you want to go to 6 or 8 ingredients.
Yeah.
But just those 3 ingredients you could get away with making a nice risotto.
Yeah. What's your quick meal when you don't want to cook for too long? What's your quick thing that you'll put together?
It's generally pasta.
Yeah.
Maybe just tomato based pasta.
Yep.
Is probably the quickest.
Yeah.
Or a toasted cheese sandwich.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah.
With the kimchi.
The kimchi, always with kimchi.
Best part of the podcast now is 5 fast questions. So the questions are in between number 1 and 20. It's the first thing that comes to your mind is how you answer them.
So I say 1 or 20?
No, the number's between 1 and 20.
Yep,
so you choose a number and then I give you the question and you say the first thing.
Okay.
What number are we going with?
10.
All right, number 10. If a movie was made about you, what actor is playing you? He's the first thing that comes to your mind.
What's the guy from Top Gun?
Oh, I was literally just going to say that. Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise. We'll give Tom Cruise a crack. I don't like, not the personal life Tom Cruise, the actor Tom Cruise.
The actor Tom Cruise. You imagine him in as a chef?
No.
I can imagine him riding a motorbike through the Stanford.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how you get to work.
With his jacket on.
Yeah, don't forget the glasses.
Yes.
Next number.
8.
Okay, number 8 is 3 things that make you happy.
Family.
Yeah.
Good food.
Yeah.
And a fast Ironman.
That's a good one. All right, next one.
15.
And number 15 is favourite place in the world. The podium of an Ironman.
Yeah, the podium. As in a destination?
Yeah.
I would say Nice. And the reason, because my wife and I went our honeymoon there.
So nice.
And we loved Nice.
Yeah.
It was our favourite place.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've been there and I did like it too.
Yeah, the food was excellent.
A really nice place to go for a morning run along the beach.
Right,
Not
yeah.
on the beach because that's pebbles, but I mean like on the concrete.
Yeah, nice.
That was really nice along there. All right, next number.
20.
All right, number 20, your biggest fear.
Oh, eaten by a shark.
Really?
Oh, I don't like swimming in the sea.
Yeah.
At all.
Do you swim in West Lakes instead?
I said swim in that little West Lakes. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I only swim in the sea when it's a race. And I think the numbers are better for me that day.
Yeah.
But generally, no, I even swim at West Lakes thinking that comes in my mind there, has there ever been a shark in here? There must have been.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No.
No,
Don't think about that.
Sharks. Sharks and snakes.
Yeah.
Two things I don't like.
Fair enough. All right, last one.
1.
Okay, number 1. What's your go-to song or artist to listen to?
Michael Jackson.
Oh, good. Have you got a specific song that you love?
No. I've always liked him. Liked his music. I know again he's a bit
Bit crazy.
but I actually have a story. So I actually seen him live twice.
Wow.
And the first time when he came to Melbourne, I tried to get my friends to go with me and no one would go, so I went by myself.
Yeah.
And I was actually at the front. I got there 6 hours before the concert started and I was standing because it was all jump in. And I stood there by myself, spoke to no one for 6 hours. Didn't have a phone or anything.
Yeah.
Just stood there.
Wow.
Waiting for him. That was the best concert.
Yeah.
So just a great musician.
Do you feel like you enjoyed it more because you were there by yourself?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. You just got to really just absorb it and not be interrupted by people.
Yeah, yeah.
That was excellent.
Yeah, nice. Well, thank you for coming
thank
on
you.
the pod. I'll plug your health food shop as well in the show notes.
Thanks for that.
And hopefully you have a few podcast listeners come through.
So do I.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
What an incredible episode that was with Jason. Very insightful about the nutrition side of racing and how that is really quite important. I think if you're around Adelaide, go and have a suss at his health food shop, Food for Life. It's full of everything you could possibly need when it comes to health food or aiding your nutrition when it comes to racing or just, in general being fit. So if you enjoyed this little podcast that we're making, please share it to your social media or you know what, just send it to a friend. And have a wonderful rest of your day, have the best week and see you next Wednesday. Bye!